This edition of MacVoices could have been sponsored by you. MacVoices is always looking for sponsors who appreciate our high-signal, low-noise approach to tech topics with an Apple focus. Our sponsorship packages feature inclusion in all of the audio and video versions of MacVoices at all of their distribution points, a web presence, inclusion in the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and more. Get the details by contacting me at chuck@macvoices.com or contact Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Welcome back to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, there's a holiday coming up, but it's probably not the one that you think I'm referring to. It's one that's important to all of us geeks and to the tech community, and we'd like to have it be important to the world at large. Here to tell us about it is Kirschen Seah, who is, well, Kirschen, first of all, it's great to have you back. Thanks so much for being
Chuck.
here.
Thank you.
So let's. I'm going to let you just take it from there and introduce the holiday and why it's important, and we'll kind of see what develops in this conversation.
It's an event called Ada Lovelace Day, and it's aimed at getting more women interested in technology as a career. So we wanted to get as many women involved in mentoring other women, having events that bring together young women and encourage them to take careers in engineering, technology, the sciences, mathematics, and so on. Because there were studies made, and it seemed that the percentage of women in engineering and science technology was not as represented as much as men in that field, and sometimes it's been dropping. So back in 2009, an event was brought up to help bring the community together and encourage women to get into engineering and bring more awareness to the public at large. And we celebrate Ada Lovelace Day in the middle of October. It's a middle Tuesday of October, started in 2009, so it's been running for 5 years so far. And this year it falls on Tuesday, October the 14th, 2014. It's a worldwide event, and if you want to participate, whether you're a guy or a gal, all you need to do is to put a post on a blog, Twitter post, anything that helps put out the word about a woman that you admire a lot in technology, in science, mathematics, engineering, and so on. So it's just to raise awareness. There are also activities being planned. Most of it's, because it started in the UK, most of it's UK-based. And if you go to the website findingada.com, and there'll be a link in the show notes, you can get to see the history of the event, the events scheduled for this year, and there's events all over. There's going to be speeches and presentations by mathematicians, musicians, structural engineers in England, and also in Brazil. There are 4 or 5 events in the US. So you could go take a look at the website, and there's all the information about what you need to do. So it's encouraging women in tech careers. It's something I'm really passionate about. So much so that I helped Jean McDonald, who runs a really major project out in Portland, Oregon, to help young women learn programming. Yeah, that was the and the name escapes you right now, but it's
App Camp for Girls.
App Camp for Girls. Yeah, she's been doing it for a long time, and this year's been 2 sessions they had. They also had one at Macworld as well, and it's something I think we need to have more of. So I volunteered to help App Camp last year, and it's been a blast. So who's Ada Lovelace? Everybody's been asking. Well, she was the first woman computer programmer. At that point in time, the 1800s in England, Charles Babbage invented a device called the difference engine, which calculated differentials and would be able to differentiate equations and calculate slopes and stuff. But he had planned a more massive piece of equipment called the analytical engine that would be, in his words, have the ability to be programmed in behavior. So it had a computation engine called the mill, and then an output and an input engine. And he looked at what was out there, and he looked at weaving, and Jacquard, who made a loom that would weave using punch cards. He said, hey, we could use these punch cards to put programs into this computation system, the analytical engine, which unfortunately never got built. Because in the 1800s, he got the attention of the Queen, and he got some funding, but making those gears and cogs and components proved too intricate for that time. So it was a steam-powered computer. and Ada looked at it. She wrote a paper on using the analytical engine to compute all sorts of things, and she said it would be able to weave mathematics just as the Jacquard loom would weave brocades and cloth and so on. So she is generally recognized as the first woman to get into programming. And furthermore, the language Ada, which was developed for the U.S. Department of Defense back in the 1980s, was named after her. So that's something big there.
Kirschen, there's so many little things here. So let me go back. First of all, you're talking about the 1800s. So this was very much, and the first word that jumps to my mind, this is kind of a steampunk thing.
Yes.
That it's all mechanical. There's no digital, there's no electronics. It's all mechanical with the difference engine and the proposed analytical engine. Analytic engine. So how did Ada go about programming, or would she have gone about programming this? I mean, you just mentioned punch cards. There are a few of us, I don't know who they are, that are familiar with punch cards, but a lot of people are just not familiar with any of that stuff. And to go back to the 1800s and try to conceive of this is a real challenge.
Yeah. What she came up was because the Jacquard loom was essentially a programmable weaving machine. You'd have these punch cards which had holes, and you'd have these levers which went through the holes, and if there was a hole, it would move a lever somewhere that would engage something else and move a thread through the cloth in a certain way. And she figured that if you could do that with making woven cloth, then you could take the same ideas and use it as an input medium into this analytical engine. You could detect certain patterns in the punch cards and then trigger the computation engine, which was the mill, which would be able to add numbers, subtract numbers, and so on, and multiply and so on, divide. And then through a system of gears, have the ability to output numbers on a vertical, like an odometer, a vertical odometer that would show you the results. But she looked at that and figured, well, you could change the behavior of this mill, and if you could be clever enough to punch the appropriate commands into these punch cards, like what we used to do, you could get all this computation done and go beyond what the difference engine would do, which was just calculate simple differentials. You could make it do amazing things. And this technology was actually used in the 1940s. A mechanical system was built by the Department of Defense back in the 1940s to calculate trajectory angles for artillery shells. And it was all a mechanical structure. The gentleman involved in that, Vannevar Bush, also wrote something that eventually turned into hypertext. So there's all these connections throughout history about technology. And women in the 1940s, in fact, during the time of Turing, during the war, where they were trying to break the German code, women were actually called computers. They were mathematicians. They sat in a room. They looked at all these codes coming in, figured out how to decrypt these things. They had a digital computer then, They had built one, specially Colossus, I believe his name was, to calculate all the intricate computations needed to decode the German code from their what was that thing? The Enigma machines. So it was amazing back in the 1940s. So women were actually doing some of the manual computations as well. Yeah.
When you go back, I love the way you just say, "Oh well, the difference engine only did differentials," and it's like, yeah, but in 1800 with no electronics, differentials. I mean, that's no small thing. And
Yes.
to not only to build it as the Charles Babbage did, but then to learn how to program it and make it do the calculations that you wanted. It's just hard to even think about where you would start. I guess like with all projects, you start at what you think is the beginning and go from there. It's too bad that. I mean, we've talked to Jean McDonald, we've talked to plenty of women in tech on the show, and I always get torn because I really don't like the idea of just discussing women in tech, because it should just be people in tech. There should be no differentiation. Unfortunately, we do need to talk about women in tech and encourage young women to get into these careers. And this, I think, is a great way to do it. I've very much supported, and I love Jean's App Camp for Girls, and there's so many other things going on out there for women in technology. And this one is something that I would love to see get a little more public visibility.
Right.
Because of the namesake and just because of the whole concept.
Right.
So you said it started in the UK, which is obviously a perfect place because that's where Ada was from. So talk about some of the events that are going to be going on both in the UK and also in the US.
Well, some of the events that are coming up is a live session at the Royal Institution, which is really big. Used to be a gathering of men, but now women have stepped up to volunteer their time and talents to organize a meeting. You pay a small fee, you attend this event, and you get to listen to speeches and have inspiring conversations with lots of women in the area of technology. For example, there's a structural engineer that we'll talk about bridges being built. There's a physicist and an oceanographer. There's, let's see, what else do we have? Somebody who led analysis of DNA, somebody who does mathematics and so on, how maths is really important and to get women interested into. Electronic musician. Few people know that the Doctor Who theme was actually concocted by a lady, Delia Derbyshire. And back in then, electronic music in the 1960s was something very unique. And she had to come up with this theme for a science fiction program that was really cutting edge back then. And the theme's been in, you could recognize it straight away, but it was done by a woman back in the 1960s. So lots of content, 10 or 12 people speaking in the UK. And there's events in schools and most importantly, worldwide events. And if you go to findingada.com, there's a link up on top that you can get to see all these events. There are events in the UK, apart from just in London, 10 different places, Australia, Brazil, France, Italy, the USA. There are events in Oregon, Texas, out in New York City and in the state, Los Alamos Lab in New Mexico. So people have taken it upon themselves to throw these events to encourage women to get into technology. So it's going to be what they call from one time zone back to the last time zone. It will be a 24-hour event.
Kirschen, how does one go about throwing one of these events? Is it just a matter of saying we're going to do it, or is there any kind of official registration or, God forbid, any kind of licensing that needs to be done?
No licensing needs to be done. They have a listing for events that are happening. All you need to do is to set something up, maybe in the school and so on. If you want to promote it, drop a note at the Finding Ada site. There are links. Let me check and make very sure here. There are links that you can go to, and under Get Involved, spread the word. Under the Get Involved tab, spread the word. You can post a note to the organizers, and they'll see if they can put it onto the list. So there's a way to contact them. And there's also, if you want to put yourself out as a mentor, they've got a place for you to put yourself on the map. So put in your information and see if people contact you. So, yeah.
And you said it earlier, but I want to make sure we repeat it. This is not just something for women to participate in. It's to celebrate women in technology, to encourage women in technology. But
that is correct.
That doesn't mean the men out there that support these things and believe in them can't assist or participate as well.
That's true. Men are also encouraged to participate and post about women that have influenced them and got them excited about getting into tech as well. So, yeah, might be your high school, might be your elementary school teacher who, encouraged you to learn maths and so on. So, yeah.
And there's so many women out there in the Mac community, in the Apple community.
Yes.
It's almost hard. I'd be almost hard to press to pick because I'd be afraid I'd leave someone out.
That's true.
That's a great thing about our community. We need more. It's still heavily biased toward men, but it's better than a lot of communities out there and a lot of tech communities.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I feel like there's more of a focus on the problems that women face in tech from some of the old guard. And sorry, guys, but that's the way. If you're one of those, that's the way I look at you, as the old guard, because I don't think the new guard see women as any kind of threat or a group that should be excluded. I think they see them as they should be welcomed, and they are welcoming them. So it's a matter of some of those old folks changing their ways or just dying out.
Yeah, but it's really good to encourage everybody and to get involved in getting more women in technology. Definitely. Yeah.
And anything other than Ada Lovelace Day that is going on a regular basis? I mean, you said you can put yourself out there as a mentor, which I think is fantastic.
Right.
Get involved with your local school systems and the tech education there.
Yeah.
What other things can both men and women do to encourage this and move it along?
Well, one of the organizations that helps young kids get involved, and that's a really good avenue to get involved in to promote technology, is Coderdojo. That's CODERDOJO.com, and it's basically a free global free coding club for young people. And we're trying to get they've got sections and groups all over around the world, and they meet together and talk about writing code, whether it's on a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino or building Lego robotics and so on. So that's one of the ways. Another thing that comes up, of course, is first Lego League. Get all the kids excited and interested in building little Lego robots that complete a task. I also recently noticed a mentorship opportunity, and I need to find the link to that one. But I'll look for that and I'll post it. It's the same thing, a mentorship site that helps to gather women in technology together, so we can encourage younger women to get into technology as well. And of course, G. McDonald's App Camp for Girls. There's other women-specific things. There's in where I'm at in Iowa City, there's a group called Iowa Tech Chicks that get together and talk about development and to encourage women to get into technology and coding and things like that. I think as the people have observed, coding or writing programs and so on is going to be the next great wave that I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And the younger you can get kids into this kind of thing, the better, because they become proficient at it. They don't have the the intimidation factor going for them that maybe you and I do, or at least that I do. You know, you sit down and as a kid, you always seem to have more time. So this is
energy.
Yeah, and I this is not a shot at the gamers, but you know, games are great, but sit down and do something like real. You know, do something that improves your skills, and your activities. And yeah, I love the cat in the background, by the way.
Right.
Kirschen.
I apologize for the cats. They have a mind of their own.
No, there's something about cats and cameras. They seem to love them. I don't understand why. No, I just think that, you know, it's one thing to play, but you can play and be productive and be learning. And that can be as much fun or more.
Yeah.
Than
Learn to write a game. Learn to write a game.
Yeah. Because some of the stuff Gene and the App Camp for Girls people have done are just staggering. When, you know, and of course Gene's thing takes it's not just coding, it's the whole process of pitching software, of getting funding, of marketing it, and also it's a soup to nuts course. But at the very bottom of the level of this, just learn to code. Learn to code and have a little fun with it. Definitely.
There's so many sites you can get logged into to get self-help lessons in writing code. And there are always groups all around where you live that look at helping people to write code. So, yeah, definitely.
So once more, if you will, give us the date and the website, please.
Right. The date for Ada Lovelace Day this year is Tuesday, October the 14th, 2014. And the website is findingada.com. That's FINDINGADA.com.
Wonderful. Of course, I'll have links in the show notes. Folks, go check it out. And if you decide to get involved, or if you have something that you're helping mentor young women get into tech, and even young people to get into tech, please let me know. I'd love to add it to the show notes and maybe make it a place where people can go to get a little more awareness of this and the need for it and just how much fun it can be. Kirschen, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for, I got to be very honest, you reminded me of this, and we said we got to get on and tell people, and especially do it a little bit in advance of Ada Lovelace Day, so that if they want to get some kind of small event going in their community or town or city, that they can do it. So folks, get out there and organize and have some fun, and just think about how much easier you have it than Ada did.
Right. All right. Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah. Kirschen, before you go, give us your website, your Twitter handle, anything that you want to promote so people know how to get in touch with you.
Sure. My website is freerangecoder.com. I'll give you a link in the show notes. And my Twitter handle is Kirschen. That's KIRSCHEN.
Great. It's good to see you. Thanks so much.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
Folks, MacVoices is a talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. We'll be back with more. This is a great cause, a great celebration, something that you should, at the very least, recognize, even if you're not going to participate. But please participate. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date on all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at MacVoices.com/newsletter. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at BackbeatMedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at CashFly.com.